So this is my first type of, you know, serious relationship, and I got with a psycho. I'm a dumbass. But anyway, so I get married to this jackass. Look, 1, young, 2, dumb, 3, in the military. I mean, who gets out of the military without a fucking divorce? Dude, and she's like, you need to fucking leave, bitch. Like, what do you mean, what do you do? So, I haven't filmed in like a month and a half, other than just like my giveaway video. I'm gonna do a story time, and this is a story time that I've actually been kind of putting off doing. Without further ado, story time. I've always wanted to do that. So I have 3 exes, so I've been with 4 people total in my entire life. My first ever ex was just a dumb relationship, but that one's not the point. My second ex, we are gonna call her Lexi. Her name's gonna be Lexi. And the ex that this is mostly about, her name is gonna be Candace. Candace. Alright, so we have Lexi and Candace. So, long time ago, I was stationed in Alaska where I met Lexi. We started dating. We were together, I don't know, I think like 9 months, and I ended up pregnant, which is a completely different story time. We're not getting into any of that. I didn't cheat, nothing like that. He was only 2 months old. We traveled back to her home state for Christmas. We were staying with her aunt, and weird things were occurring. She wanted to go see a particular person. We'll call her Taylor. She wanted to go see Taylor without me. Now, we were using her mom's car. So her mom was like, no, you're not going to put extra miles on going to see Taylor, coming back and getting Alex, and then going out and doing whatever. Like, just bring her with you. I also had Lucas with me because we were going to drop him off along the way whenever we were going out to meet up with some of her old friends. So, we went to Taylor's house. We get to Taylor's house, and I noticed Lexi. I'm going to fuck this up. So I noticed Lexi has already like walked in, left me, whatever. Cool. I don't know anyone here. I had just previously had a C-section and a second surgery because I effed my C-section up. But sure, yeah, no, I'll get the kid. Don't worry about it. It's cool. So I'm getting Lucas out of the car, and Taylor's mom comes up and, you know, oh, hi. Where are they? Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, you know what? I don't know. And she helped me get Lucas out, get in the house and all that. So I was talking to Taylor's mom, who I'd never met before. She's a really nice lady, though. I was talking to her, chit-chatting, and it had been like a good 10-15 minutes. And she was like, can you go in the back? They're probably in the back shed, you know, talking to Taylor's dad. And I was like, yeah, sure, that's fine. So I walk out in the back, and I go, and I meet Taylor's dad, but there's no Taylor, and there's no Lexi. So I walk out, and I hear a weird noise, and I walk to the side of the shed. Oh my god, they're making out. I didn't say anything. I don't think they even saw me. I literally just turned around and walked inside. Long story short, we get into a huge fight, and we break up. It was great. My first Christmas with my kid, I spent without my kid and alone. Amazing. Great time. Anyway, so we get back to Alaska. We kind of sort of made up because we had Lucas. Now, we didn't have Lucas, but she was, you know, there for me, blah, blah, blah. Cool beans. So we're trying to co-parent. She's actually still living in my house. From time to time, she gets in my bed and cuddles me at night, because, I mean, why not, right? Oh, by the way, at this time, Lexi and Taylor are together now. So that was cool. Anyways, a few months down the road, I meet, what did I say her name was? Candace. I said her name was Candace. Alright, so a few months later, I meet Candace. Candace is stationed down at JBLM. That makes no sense to half of y'all. So I'm stationed all the way up in Alaska, and she is stationed down in Washington State. Which actually wasn't that far if you flew. It was only like a 4-hour flight one way. Which I know y'all like, holy shit, that's a 4-hour flight. It wasn't that bad from Alaska, trust me. It was like a 13-hour flight all the way home, okay? So 4 hours of shit. Anyways, so I met her online because I'm awkward as fuck in person and I can't meet people. I scare them off apparently, or I just don't talk to anyone. So anyways, I met her online. She was great. We hit it off. We had a lot in common. We had gone through a similar situation. We were from similar areas in Texas. She's just really cool. She was cool with the fact that Lexi was still living with me. All of that. She never freaked out on me. It was awesome. Like, holy shit, she's super understanding. We, you know, have the same sense of humor. We have gone through a similar trauma, and, you know, we can lean on each other because we actually understand it. So yeah, that was cool. And then she got stationed down at Fort Hood, which was fine. That's where I was getting stationed next. A series of events occurred, and I ended up actually getting stationed down there early. A whole year early. It was great. I hated Alaska. So I get down there a whole year early, and the Army had actually just changed its policy where if you were in a state where you couldn't get married legally, a same-sex marriage, they would give you, I think it was like 7 days TDY to go get married. So I think I had like almost 3 weeks to get great. So I meet, what did I call her again? Shit, Candace. So I meet Candace's family. They're amazing. They're awesome. You know, again, we get along great. No issues. Not having any problems. We are driving now to California. Psycho Bitch starts to come out around the time that we are driving to California. So I had left Lucas with Candace's parents. I liked them. They were cool. You know, I had gotten to know them. I was fine with it. No issues whatsoever. So driving, I think, okay, so for those of you who can't like visualize how fucking huge Texas is, over half of our drive actually was just leaving Texas. Yeah. So we're leaving Texas. I don't know where we were exactly, but we were pretty far. Like, we had already been like on our journey for a good 9 hours driving. We'd switched, like she was driving first, and we switched, and I was driving. She'd gotten tired, and at some point I hit a possum. Like, I freaked out a little bit, turned around, make sure the possum was dead. It was. So I stopped at a gas station after that. I was tired. I needed, you know, a drink. I wanted to check the tire, make sure, because it was a big ass possum. There was some hair in it. It was kind of funny. And I don't remember what the fight was about, but we had a fight. And now most people's first fights are not like huge blowout fights, but this was like a screaming match. I don't even know, like, again, how it like tumbled into this. But anyways, so I'm driving and I'm like, you know what, fuck this, fuck getting married. Like, I barely know you. We're having a fight. You know, I don't think this is right. Something doesn't feel right. I'm gonna turn around, which of course caused like more of an issue. But I was like, you know what? No, like, something doesn't feel right. But somehow this manipulative piece of fucking shit is like, oh no, you know, I'm sorry. This is my bad. I'm really tired. I'm hungry. I'm this, I'm that, you know, deflecting any actual blame. Like, she wouldn't take blame for anything, like, necessarily. Like, yeah, she was apologizing, but you know, like those half-assed, you know, apologies where it's like, oh yeah, my bad, it's because XYZ, not because, you know, I fucked up or anything like that. So I turned back around. We're going, I have cat hair on my face, I swear to God. Every single video there's cat fur somewhere. So anyways, we're on our way back to California now. We make it there. We get a hotel room. You know, we have premarital sex. It's great. Whatever. And we're on our way to the courthouse the next day. I had set an appointment. We're running late. It's, of course, my fault. This is where things, like, start to, like, those red flags that I should have noticed but didn't because I'm a dumbass. So we're on our way to the courthouse. She's screaming at me, like, literally as we're, like, walking into the courthouse. She's like, you're such a bitch. You know, we're going to be late. We're not even going to be able to get married. Like, I'm sorry. If you're calling me a bitch, maybe we shouldn't get married. But anyways, we got married. I did take her last name. I lost rock, paper, scissors. Making, like, huge life choices on rock, paper, scissors. Should have been a first clue. I am married now. It was great. Start going to work. And things just kind of, like, tumbled. It was just like a series of events that I had so many chances to walk away and I didn't, because I was like, oh no, you know, that was me. Or, you know, we get into a fight and she's screaming at the top of her lungs, but I'm pretty sure I did something wrong, you know, like I set her off. It's my fault that she's upset. Like, those things start happening, and any like sane person not in a abusive relationship of any sort is like, bitch, like, no, not every fight's your fault, you know, this, that, and the other. I know now. I didn't then. So, this is my first type of, you know, serious relationship, and I got with a psycho. Psycho Candace and I are in a house, and my best friend Marcy moves in with us. I had no issues with Marcy, but then I remember like the first fight that Marcy saw. And I swear to God, like, she like sat me down and was like, holy shit, Alex, like, you need to leave. Like, let's run away together. But I didn't, because I'm dumb. But anyway, so it was my birthday. Me and Marcy are making a cake. She and I are making our cake. Now, Candace did not attempt to like help us or interact with us. Like, she was just kind of pouting over in the corner or some shit. I don't fucking know. We make this awesome cake. If I can find pictures, I'm gonna insert them right here, because that was the best cake ever. Me and Marcy made that, and she's still my best friend ever. Anyways, so we make this cake. It's bomb as fuck. We eat the cake. We, you know, eat dinner. Marcy made dinner that night. No issues, right? And then that night, I think everyone had gone to bed at this point. Or we were watching TV. I don't know. But anyways, Candace gets mad because I should have, you know, made your cake, and you should have let me help, and, you know, you, how dare you, pretty much. You're terrible. And I'm like, well, you know, we tried, or I wanted to do it. I don't know what, like, I tried to defend myself, I'm pretty sure, along the lines of, well, you had the opportunity, or, you know, something like that. Like, and she did. She had the opportunity to come with us. We weren't like, nah, bitch, bye. We weren't excluding her at all, but I guess she took it that way. And that was the first night she ever laid hands on me. Now, she didn't, like, hit me, but we were in our bedroom. Marcy's, like, across the house, right? But she can hear Candace just fucking screaming at me. And she kind of came in and was like, hey, you know, y'all are a little loud, the kids are asleep. And I'm like in tears, like just freaking the fuck out at this point, because like she was a type of angry that she had never been before. And like I was genuinely like fearful. And I know that she saw that, Marcy saw that, like it clicked in her head. And so she tried to diffuse the situation, and it helped a little bit. Candace, you know, calmed down for the time being. And then Marcy went to the kitchen to get like a Coke or something. A switch just fucking flipped in Candace, and she said something, and I'm standing like in the frame of the doorway to like between our bedroom and our bathroom, and she just fucking shoves me. And she shoves me, and when she shoves me, I fall back into like our little door there for like the linen. And in that process, she also hit me in the face. And there was a red mark like on my eye immediately. And Marcy comes running in there, takes Candace like by the back of the shirt and rips her down, and it's like, you need to get the fuck out of here, you need to go now. And I just started crying. Like, I'm not okay, obviously. Like, the person I love, you know, the person I married just fucking hit me after screaming at me for 20 minutes because I didn't let her help bake a cake for my birthday. So that was cool. Now, everyone listening is like, okay, yeah, so y'all left, like, y'all broke up at this, right? No, I'm fucking stupid. Candace leaves for a little bit. I think she went to, like, her dad's or something, which he didn't live very far. Her family lived in Temple, so that was, like, a 30-minute, 45-minute maximum drive in, like, heavy traffic. So, yeah. She leaves for 2 or 3 hours, comes back, you know, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to, you know, I'm so sorry that I pushed you, I was just so upset, so frustrated, all those excuses that, you know, abusive pieces of shits make. Yeah, she made them. And I'm like, oh, you know, I understand, we were arguing, I don't fucking know, I was dumb. And Marcy looks at me and is like, you dumb bitch, like, no, it's not okay. And I'm pretty sure, like, the next day she was like, you're a stupid bitch, what the fuck are you doing? Probably not in those words, but maybe in those words, because that's how my best friend is. And I didn't listen to her, because I'm a dumbass. Like, a couple months later, Candace starts getting in my ear, you know, Marcy's not doing this, and Benny's not doing that, and they're drinking all my cokes, and, you know, they're not doing this, and they're late on rent, and every fucking thing else. And it gets to the point where nobody's happy in the house. Like, Marcy and Benny were, like, not coming out of their room for, like, any amount of time while we were there, because they were uncomfortable. I felt uncomfortable. And, like, as like, looking back, I feel like such a terrible friend in the whole situation, and I should have known better, and I should have, you know, obviously been like, no, like, you have the problem, and you're trying to isolate me from people I care about, but I didn't. So they leave, and now it's just us three in the house again, and it got so much worse. And then, like, one of my, like, biggest, like, I actually was like, no, I think I need to leave her. We were in my truck, and I don't know where we were going, but we're on the toll roads. Something set her off, and she literally hauls off and punches me in the face, like the side of the head, while I'm driving, while my kid's in the back seat. And I ended up swerving, because, I mean, I didn't fucking anticipate getting hit in the face, and almost caused a huge accident. I pull over to the side of the road, and she's like, you know, let me out, blah, 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 I don't want to be with you, I don't want to be here. It's fucking pouring down rain, and I'm like, you know what, fine, get out. So she gets out, and I fucking left. I drove off. And of course, now she's blowing up my phone. I can't believe you actually left. You're, you know, a terrible wife. You're a terrible person. I hope I get hit by a car. Like, shit like that. That's, like, such, like, it's abusive as fuck. Like, manipulative, abusive, like, everything. She checked all the fucking boxes, like, plus some. She made up some boxes to fucking check at this point. I exit off the toll road, and I turn around, and I get back on the toll road. So there's, like, $8 I just fucking spent just dealing with her. And I pull back up, and, you know, I stop, I roll down the window, and I'm like, get in, and she's like, no. Fucking rain's just pouring into my truck, my kid's screaming now, you know, and I'm trying to convince her to get in, and she's like, no, I'll just call my dad, I'm not getting in with you, you know, fuck you, you're abusive. Okay. So I'm like, alright, fuck you, like, I'm gonna leave then, and she's like, do it, bye. What does she do, guys? How dare you leave? So I do it all over again, and I say, look, you can either get in the truck, fuck it, you can get in the back seat, you don't have to talk to me, like, I'll drop you off wherever the fuck you want, or I am leaving, and I'm not coming back to get you, like, period. Like, you make that fucking choice, either get in, or leave me the fuck alone forever. She gets in. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, you know, I'm just having a bad day, and you said this, and it upset me, and, you know, you made this noise, and I didn't mean to hit you, and, you know, let me clean that up, and all that, right? Okay. So, we get back to our house, and I get Lucas out of the car, I go inside, and I put him down for a nap or something, maybe to bed, I don't fucking know, and we get into another fight. And this time, she's fucking, like, on top of me, wailing on me. She bit my arm, I had a black eye, like, I had random bruises that, like, you could tell they weren't like, oh, haha, clumsy Alex, like, no, I had, like, a bruise, like, you know, like a bite mark bruise, like, I had a bite mark bruise, like, on my arm, And actually it was this arm, and this arm isn't as heavily tattooed, so the bruise was very prominent, very evident, and like my legs were bruised. Yeah, so it was pretty bad. And like a week later or something along those lines, we go out to her grandma's house, and her grandma sees it. Like, I was wearing just, you know, a normal t-shirt, and she sees the bruises, and she's like staring at the bruises. And like, her grandma and her grandpa had been, like, they're still together. Like, they had been together for a very, very long time, so like they've got that silent communication down. And she gives him this like look, and he just kind of nods, and he's like, hey Candace, can you come with me into this part of the house, way the fuck over here? I need help with this. He didn't need help. He was literally just trying to get her away from me. And her grandma like looks at my bruises, and she's like, that's not okay. And I was like, oh, haha, I, you know, fell. And she goes, that's a bite mark, and you have a black eye, and your legs are bruised, and those aren't bruises from falling down. I can tell. She goes, I don't want to know what happened, but I know that you're not the first person this has happened to. And this is not healthy for you, for Lucas, for her, for Candace. Y'all need to stop. Like, y'all need to break up, or, you know, something along those lines. I don't know if she said it like in those exact words, but she knew, right? And she said, like, this isn't the first time. And that kind of gave me a clue. And so on the way home, like, I was pretty quiet. We, you know, because that was like the biggest like fight we'd ever had. And so she was pretty sweet to me for like the next 2-3 weeks. And I convinced her that we needed to go to therapy. So we are going to an on-post therapist. So like we have to be pretty careful about what we say. For those of you not in the military, HIPAA doesn't exactly apply to the military. Now, I know that sounds so weird to some of y'all. Pretty much, if your command needs to know about something, the doctor, whichever doctor you go to, is able to tell them. Like, and it's more than just, you know, oh, I'm gonna hurt myself. It's like, this soldier is harassing me, or, you know, anything like I'm thinking about not re-enlisting or something like that, like they could tell your command. So we knew that we needed to be pretty careful about what we said and how we said it. We agreed that we wanted to convey that things were not okay, that they were not very healthy, that there was a lot of tension, but we obviously didn't want to say, you know, anyone's getting hit or anything like that. So we go to therapy. We obviously omit some things. And they do like the whole love test thing where it's, you know, trying to figure out like your love language. And the therapist gave us some reading about like, you know, how to like show the other person that you care, because, you know, y'all don't speak the same love language. You know, one person could want you to cuddle with them on the couch for hours, and that's how they know you love them. And then like another person, you know, you're doing the dishes, and that's how they know that you love them. Like shit like that. And so I'm sitting there, you know, we took this stupid test, and I'm reading up on her love language, and, you know, I'm trying to change my behavior towards her to kind of reflect, like, what, you know, all the literature was saying I should be doing, right? And I noticed that she's not. And so I, like a dumbass, mentioned like, hey, you know, can you spend more time with me, or, you know, can we go on a walk in the park, can we, you know, take the dogs out, can we, something like that along those lines, you know, nothing major. It wasn't, you know, go buy me a fucking Mercedes, you know, it was normal couple shit that I was asking of her. And I could tell the way she kind of answered me that it wasn't going to go well. We called up our babysitter, like, hey, I know this is last minute, but can we drop Lucas off? You know, we're going to go to the dog park, and there's a lot of big dogs. She's like, yeah, sure, that's fine, blah, blah, blah. Here, take Duke, which is her Great Dane. And so we took Duke and Sadie with us, which is her Golden Retriever, and we took our dogs, and we go to the dog park, and we're at the dog park. We're having a blast with the dogs. Like, she always wanted to be a dog trainer. And so she's working with Titan, which is my puppy. I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I just sensed something was off and it was me and it wasn't her. No, it was not how that went. We get home and Chrissy, the babysitter, is like, you know, it's kind of late. Y'all have work tomorrow. Fuck it, just leave him here. We have a pack and play, blah, blah, blah. Like, just leave him here for the night. Y'all just take the night. And we're like, oh, sweet, yeah. Yeah, no, that was fucking stupid. So we get home and another fight. And this one was really fucking bad. And I finally, like, got away from her. And I'm, like, in the bathroom and she's, like, banging on the door. And I'm like, I don't want to be with you anymore. Like, I'm done with this. I can't fucking take this. You know, it's not okay anymore. I don't feel safe with you, and I should feel safe. And she stops, you know, and she's like, you don't feel safe with me? She's like, how could you not feel safe with me? And I was like, look at what you're doing. You're literally beating on the door, like, trying to get through to me to fucking hit me. Like, why would I feel safe? But, of course, then I hear her walk away and I hear something in the kitchen and I walk out, you know, and she has, like, a fucking dull-ass butcher knife to her arm. I'm gonna kill myself if you leave me. You know, I've never loved anyone like I love you. How dare you, you know, want to leave me. I'm amazing. You know, you just have stuff you need to work on. I'm like, no. Obviously, I apologize because it's my fault that I'm such a terrible person and I don't want to get hit. So, we diffuse that situation. Okay, so we move houses after we lost our babysitter. We actually moved into their house. And I had bought her a project Jeep. She was a mechanic. So we're working on this project Jeep. We're like taking apart the engine. And I know a little bit about cars. I am not nearly like as knowledgeable as she was. But I'm out there helping her and we get into another fight. And she ends up cornering me in Lucas's room with Lucas in his bed like screaming. And she has her phone in her hand. It was like an iPhone, so I'm pretending it's like this, and she's like screaming at me, and she pushes me against the wall and hits me, and she broke my tooth. Y'all, I don't know if y'all have noticed my off-colored tooth. She broke it in half, and I immediately, like, I spit my tooth out, and I'm crying because it hurts so fucking much because the nerve was exposed. So I spit my tooth out and I'm like, you fucking broke my tooth. And she's like, no, I didn't. You're being dramatic. And I like held it up and I'm like, you broke my tooth. And I showed her and she's like, oh shit. And I'm like, I need to go to the dentist. Like, I need to go on post like now. Like, this fucking hurts. Like, I'm not okay. This isn't okay. And she's like, no, you know, I don't want to get in trouble and I don't want you to get in trouble and this isn't okay and I'm so sorry. And she literally like has me sitting on the floor crying because I'm in so much pain, like convincing me not to say anything. And we get to the dentist on post and she has Lucas with her like in the waiting room and they, you know, call me back and they're like, oh, how did this happen? And I kind of like paused and I stared at him because I hadn't like thought of fucking an excuse. And I was like, and he's like, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, I think so, yeah. And like he, like the dentist like realizes like, he was like, is someone here with you? And I was like, yeah, my wife is, and she has my kid in the waiting room. And he's like, okay, well, I, you know, need to figure this out on your tooth and whatnot. And he's like, well, the root's exposed. She was like, and the teeth around it are really loose. They're okay, there's no visible trauma to them, but they're really loose. Like, we need to stabilize them. This is going to take a while. Let me go talk to her and let her know it's going to be a while, since she has the kid. I'm like, okay. And he like stops and he looks back and he's like, you're sure you're okay, right? And I was like, yeah, I'll be fine. And so he leaves and he's gone for like a good like 15-ish, 20 minutes, which is a long time. And he'd given me pain meds, so I was okay at least. And I was on my phone and she wasn't texting me, so I like started to freak out, like, oh my god, what if he like called the MPs? What if he like realized what happened? And you know, all that. But he was, I guess, just kind of talking to her, and he came back and he's like, well, they're gonna go, you know, grab something to eat. And I told him it was gonna be a while, blah blah blah. And I was like, okay. And he was like, I, you know, don't want to make you feel uncomfortable, but I can tell that she did something. And I was like, no, like, I started freaking out. And he's like, I'm not going to call the MPs. I'm not going to talk to your command, like, nothing. I just want to let you know that if I can tell, other people can tell. Like, it is noticeable. You are not okay. And I was like, I'm fine. And he goes, okay. He was like, that's fine. And he just, you know, fixes my tooth. And he's like, you need to come back. And I'm like, why? And he goes, you still have a broken tooth. Oh yeah, like my tooth's broken. And so I was on leave, or it was a weekend, I don't remember. But she comes and picks me up and she's like, you didn't tell him, right? Like, first thing as I get into the vehicle, you didn't tell him, right? And I was like, I didn't say anything, you know. He just had to fix my tooth. And well, he asked me a lot of questions, like how it happened and blah, blah, blah. Like, what did you say? And I was like, I didn't say anything. I didn't tell him how it happened, like nothing. And I obviously didn't tell her that he was like, hey, bitch, you're not, you know, I can tell. Because I knew that that wasn't going to go well for me. So she, you know, starts to be sweet again, because that's what abusers do after they fuck you up. So she's sweet, and at this point I'm like, maybe I really do need to leave. Like, this is obviously not safe. Like, she is hurting me, like hurting me. Like, now I have a broken tooth. I used to have a perfect smile, and this cunt fucking fucked it up. I'm sorry, Mom, I just said the C word, my bad. So I'm now like, okay, maybe this is like, maybe I should go, you know, maybe I should leave. And like, yeah, no, I should leave her. But I didn't. But a fight occurred, and I don't even know like how it all transpired, but my command found out and gave me a no contact order for her. And now I know that sounds like crazy, but yes, in the military, your commander literally runs your life. And if he says you can't talk to your wife, you're not supposed to talk to your wife. And so she's staying, I think she's staying with her parents. And I'm at the house with Lucas. We go like a day or two, like we're not supposed to talk at all. Like no texting, no nothing, right? There was not really like much follow up from anyone. I think it was only like a 7-day no contact order, like Monday to Monday or some shit. And I think we only made it like 2 days, and she calls me like restricted, like a star 67 called me, and I pick up and she's like, I know I'm not supposed to call you, but I miss you. And I was like, well, like I kind of think we should, you know, take this seriously. Maybe, you know, it'll help us. And she gets super upset and hangs up, and I didn't say anything. I think it was like another day, and she calls me again and she's crying. She's upset. You know, I want to see you. And I was like, well, I don't want to get in trouble. Like, there's a no contact order. You know, I can get an Article 15. You can get an Article 15. Like, I don't want to deal with that, you know. I think we should listen to this. And she's like, no, please, like, let's see each other, blah, blah, blah. So I let her come over, and there goes that no contact order. And I'm pretty sure my squad leader, like, kind of figured it out, but didn't say anything. But my command is now hyper aware of the fact that we're fighting a lot. Things aren't okay. You know, things are getting violent at the house. We're trying not to fight. It's not working. We end up with another no contact order, so that's number 2 now. That one lasted a little longer. I actually think I was the one to break that one. We never fucking made a no contact order, like, actually last. I don't know that it actually would have helped any. I think maybe if I was away from her longer, I could have, like, actually gotten away earlier, but I didn't listen to them, and neither did she. We got into another huge fucking fight, and this time I called my squad leader and said, look, we're in a fight. I'm not okay. Shit's fucking hitting the fan, you know. And he comes, and he makes her leave. We got another no contact order. She didn't listen, but this time I told my command, I'm like, look, she's texting me. I don't want her, you know, to get in trouble, but I want y'all to know that I'm not doing this. I'm not responding. And I think that one, like, I actually made that one last a whole week. And whenever it was over, like, my squad leader sat down with us. Like, it was a fucking intervention, I swear. And it's like, look, y'all need to figure this the fuck out. And I'm like, okay, yeah, you're right. And she's like, yeah, you're right too. And we tried to go back to therapy and it didn't work. At this time, like, we were trying to go to therapy together. But we were also going to therapy separately. And I made it a point to get a therapist off post. Because when you go off post in the military, HIPAA actually does apply. And they can't tell your command everything. So I was being fucking truthful and honest. And, like, yeah, I was like, listen, she's, you know, hitting me, and when we get into a fight, this is what happens. And she's like, you need to leave. Thanks. This is also when I got diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, which made a lot of sense. But anyways, not the point here. My therapist, like, is telling me she sounds like she is a, like, narcissist, like, textbook narcissist. And I'm like, well, what do I do? And she's like, you need to fucking leave, bitch. Like, what do you mean, what do you do? But we ended up getting into a huge fucking fight. And this was like a falling out fight. And we split up. Like, actually split up. Like, I got my shit and I called a friend that I had and was like, hey, can I come bum on your couch and with my kid for a bit? Like, I'll pay you rent. And she's like, yeah, like, sure. She had no idea what the fuck was going on. I hadn't talked to her in like fucking 9 months because I wasn't able to. You know, I like broke down and I told her everything. We were actually really good friends. She's awesome. But I told her all the things that Candace told her all the things that had happened with me and Candace, and, you know, I'd actually like started documenting shit in pictures and whatnot, and, you know, like showing her and telling her, and she's like, wow, that's bad, that's some heavy shit. And I'm like, yeah. And I was getting like blown up text messages, like not just like a few here and there, I'm talking like 100, 200, along with like calls, like constant. So I like bought out my phone contract, which she was also on, and I like shut it off, had them turned off, and I switched and I got on my grandma's plan because it was cheaper through AT&T, and I got a different number and was like, I think I gave it out to a few people and was like, I swear to fucking God, if Candace ends up with my number, like, I'll cut a bitch. Like, I don't want her calling me. I don't need her contacting me. Like, no. And at this point, my command also had given her a 30-day or 60-day no contact order. And, like, sat down with her commander and was like, look, like, if she fucks up, like, we're gonna go to JAG and we're gonna, like, make a fucking case. she's no longer able to call me. She's, you know, nothing. I got so fucking serious about like not wanting her to contact me. I fucking traded in my vehicle. Like, I traded in my truck. I got a different vehicle. I changed babysitters, which is where I met a really cool friend. But anyway, so I changed babysitters. I was like dead ass serious. Like, I don't want you contacting me. I don't want anything to do with you. And she was there at my babysitter's, Kayla's, one day and kind of like confronted me, but was like I don't want to fight, you know, like white flags, you know, I just want to talk. Can we talk? And I was like, you have a no contact order, like leave me alone. And she's like, look, I'm serious, like I've been going to therapy. I think I had been away from her now for like a good month. She's like, I've been going to therapy, you know, they have me on medications and I think I'm doing better, you know, I really don't want to throw our marriage away, you know, I really do love you and I care about you and I know I fucked up and I know I shouldn't have done this, that, and the other. And she's actually making like sense, and I'm pretty sure she was just saying like what she believed I wanted her to say. She's kind of hitting the nail on the head, unfortunately, because I was listening. And I'm like, okay, well, you know, I need to think about it. And she's like, okay, take your time. And I'm like, I'll call you. You know, give me your number. She's like, well, can I have yours? And I was like, no. Like, I'll call you. And she didn't argue. I think I went back in and I talked to Kayla. And she was like, well, it sounds like maybe she has changed, you know. But she's like, but don't, like, call her right away. Like, give it a few days. See if she freaks the fuck out, you know. See if she shows up here again. And she didn't. Like, I think I waited, like, a good week. And she didn't show up again. She didn't, you know, nothing, right? But I didn't stop to think at that point, like, how the fuck did she show up here? This is where stalker Candace, like, started coming out. And I, for whatever reason, like, missed that. So I missed that somehow. And Kayla did too. She's like, she just focused on the fact that, you know, she's being chill. And so a good week later, I blocked my number and called her and was like, meet me back at Kayla's at lunch and we can talk, but Kayla's gonna be there. And she's like, that's fine, yeah, that's cool. Like, does she know? And I was like, yeah, I told her everything. And she's like, that's okay, yeah. And we talked and everything was fine. And I was like, well, shit, maybe she has changed. And even Kayla was like, well, she was just chill as fuck. And I was like, I know. She's like, maybe you should give her another chance. And I'm like, yeah, you know, maybe I should. And I went back to the place I was staying. I was still staying with my friend, Kelly. And I talked to Kelly, and Kelly's like, nah, bitch. Like, the only sane voice in this. She's like, she fucking hit you. Like, she broke your tooth, she hit you, she bruised you, she fucked you up. Like, no. Like, you don't forgive that. You don't come back to that. And I was like, well, blah, 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 blah. And she's like, look, obviously you're not listening to me, but I'm telling you, it's a bad idea. And so I started seeing her again. So several people now are like, no, bitch, no, don't do this. I didn't fucking listen. Like, I am partially to blame in some of this, and I take responsibility for that part. But anyways, not the point. So we get another place together in Temple, and our place was a duplex. So we live over here, and her sister, Sarah, lives next to us, like connected. Things are okay for a good like 2 months. Then she started to kind of like nitpick again, and we started arguing again, and we were on our way to my mom's. Something transpired, and she pulls over and she's like, get out. I'm like, what? She's like, get out. Get your kid, get out of my car. Like, I don't want you. And I, of course, argued, like, you're not leaving me on the side of the road with my kid. Like, that's not cool. That's not safe. And I don't care. You know, get out. And so I did. And I called my mom crying. And she came and got me. And she is like, you know, this isn't okay. So now everybody is again like, this isn't okay, like you need to go. I'm like, you know what, maybe you're right. She pretty much convinces me that while being apart from someone can help, you know, it probably needed to be longer, and she probably just said what she needed to get me back with her. I think it was like maybe a week later or so, and Candace had CQ. And for those of you not in the military, that is a 24-hour duty. So you show up to wherever your CQ is, and you're there from, for example, 6 a.m. all the way to 6 a.m. Like, you're there. And you can leave for lunch and shit or a nap, depending on who you're with. And so she was able to leave. She came home for dinner. I cooked her dinner. And she, like, took a nap or some shit. She went back to duty. I got all my shit. And I fucking left. And then I tried to go back a couple days later to get my dog. And she had gotten rid of my dog. But I was like, it's not worth the fight. Like, fuck this, I don't care. I'm gone, right? I'm gone. And I was staying with my biological parent. And Kim, that's my biological mother's name, she was like, you know, she's not allowed here. Like, if she comes here, like, I will fucking call the cops and have her arrested. And I'm like, that's fair. She's like, you need to stop talking to her. And I was like, you're right, I do. It didn't work. I would text her here and there, which was my bad. Like, I shouldn't have been. And I know that, but like, I would get drunk and I'd miss her and I'd text her and she'd text and whatnot, and then, you know, I'd block her number in the morning or some shit. Or, you know, we'd text for a few days and would get into a fight and she'd block my number. Like, that went on for a good, like, month and a half. And I was like, I need to stop. And so I did. So I stopped. I blocked her number, like, completely. I'm pretty sure I even changed my number again. I did. I changed my number again. And, you know, Kim was like, you need to not fucking give it to her. Like, you need to stop changing your number. Like, you need to grow the fuck up and stop. And I was like, you're right, I do. That's when the, like, extra stalker in her started to come out hard fucking core. I got back on, like, a dating site, and she was on there too. So I blocked her, like, immediately as I got on. So I started getting messages from, like, new accounts. But they were like, you're a slut. And you're a this, you're a that. And so I just, like, I knew it was her. She started, you know, commenting on my Instagram page. Which is not the Instagram page I have now. I deleted that one. That's how bad it got. She's, like, harassing me. Like, finding ways to message me, like, through social media and shit. I started, like, whenever I would go to work or I would have an appointment, like, I would take a different gate. I would go out of my way to, like, go through a different gate just so I wouldn't, you know, have to deal with it. I would go through, like, Fort Hood's huge. I would go through a gate, like, way the fuck out in the boonies because my company, like, was gate guarding there. So I'd go through our gate, just so I would feel, you know, okay. For lunch and stuff, like, I would have my friends drive. And we'd go to different restaurants, or I'd bring my food. Like I did all that I could to actually avoid her at this point. Like, I was actually done. There was one time, I was at Olive Garden with them. She, like, walked up to the table. And John, like, stands up and, like, gets between, like, me and her. And he's like, you need to fucking go. And was like, you need to fucking go. And that kept happening. But, like, she wouldn't come in. She would just sit outside and stare. And it would be, like, I could see her through the window. And she could see me seeing her. Like, she knew she was making me uncomfortable. And she started coming by Kim's house. Like, driving by. Sitting outside of the house. Somehow she got my number. And I did not give it to her. I know that John didn't give it to her. I know that Jake didn't give it to her. Who gave it to her? I don't fucking know. Whatever. I started getting death threats, and they're not from her number. There's apps that can change your number, and I started getting death threats. Threats like, I'm gonna kill your kid, you know, I'm gonna do this to your kid, or I'm gonna bury him alive and you're never gonna find him. Like, some fucking like hardcore, like holy shit, what is wrong with you type of things. And I pretty much have a fucking breakdown at this point, and I go into work one day, and my squad leader, we were in the company, like we were in the computer room or some shit. I had to like, even though I'm getting out, like I fucking final out in like a month or whatever, like I had to redo a cert, welcome to the fucking army. But anyways, he's like, haha, you look like you haven't slept in like a day or whatever. And I just like look at him and I like start crying. And he's like, oh shit, like what did I say? What did I do? And I was like, I'm not okay, like I'm not okay. And he's like, do we need to go to someone? And I was like, I looked at him, I was like, I just want to like kill myself so this stops. I like showed him everything. He's like, why didn't you say something? And I was like, well, it's not from her number. And he's like, you need to file a police report. So I filed a report with the MPs, and I show it to them, and they go and arrest her. They bring her in cuffs and everything, and they interrogate her, and she had wiped her phone. So they obviously had no way to tell, like, it was her. And things stopped for a while. And I met my wife around this time. She was my rebound, but I was her rebound, so it's okay. But anyway, so I'm rebounding with my wife, but she's actually pretty legit. You know, we're chit-chatting here and there, and Candace has, you know, disappeared, but I had warned her about Candace. Like, this is what's going on with Candace. Like, this is what I'm dealing with, and she's like, holy fuck. Maybe I don't want to get into this. But I'm like, oh no, it's fine, I'm better. And I, you know, there was a 4-day weekend, and I came down to Houston. I stayed with my cousin, and I met Shayna in person. We hit it off, we're doing great, and, you know, everything's going fine. And it's been like a good, like, 3 months now, and I have not heard from Candace. I'm like, whew, maybe she got the fucking hint. No. Shayna came, and we did, like, a short weekend, like, date thing. We were staying at a hotel. We went and saw Sam Hunt, and we made like a whole weekend out of it. We went to the zoo. I fed a giraffe for the first time. It was great. We came back up to Austin. We went to Zilker Park, and we were by the waterfall at Zilker Park, like taking a picture, because where else do you take pictures at Zilker? And I heard something that just kind of caught my attention, and it wasn't like anything out of the ordinary, but I heard something, and it's kind of loud. And I look over, and someone is walking away. But I was like, I looked at Shayna, I was like, that's my ex. And then the death threats started again, so that was cool too. And the death threats continued. I moved down here, I moved in with Shayna. I had been with Shayna now for like 5 months. Yes, we moved in quickly, but at least I didn't go and get married. And so I contacted the local police department. And they're like, you should get a fucking restraining order. And the death threat stopped again. And then I was now working, and my son was staying with my Nana. She's watching him. She's retired, like, why not watch him, right? And I was talking to them because she lives with my uncle. And my uncle was like, I saw a really cool Jeep today. And I'm into Jeeps, like I drive a Jeep, and I'm like, oh yeah, like what was it? And he was like, it was a really cool, you know, red JK, and it had like the flash symbol across it. And I was like, oh my fucking god, are you serious? And he's like, yeah, like it was cool. And I was like, when did you see it? Like, what was the license plate? Like, and I start like freaking out, and he's like, what the fuck? And I was like, that was Candace. And he's like, are you serious? And I was like, yeah. He was like, it was in the neighborhood. And I was like, oh my fucking god, like, are you fucking for real? And he confronted her like a few weeks after that and was like, I swear to god, if I ever see you again, like, I'm gonna fucking kill you. And sure shit, it was her. Like, she was still in the military and driving down here, which is a 4-hour drive, 4.5-hour drive, just to fucking stalk me. Like, oh my god, bitch, like, move on. She actually ended up calling Shayna's work and got a dispatcher that's really good friends with us still, and was like, my wife is sleeping with one of your officers and this is her name. And Karen was like, okay. And she's like, well, that's, you know, you can't do that and blah, blah, blah. She's like, sweetie, this is the real world. Like, yeah, she can. Like, you need to not call back up here unless you're here and there's an emergency. And she's like, and if you're here, you probably shouldn't be. And click. I think I had been with Shayna for like almost a year. And I was like, how do I file for divorce? Because gay marriage is now legal like across the United States, I waited for that. Because I didn't want to go all the way back to California to get a divorce. Like, that's expensive as shit. And then that's when all the stalking stopped. And I was like, cool. Now I can't find her. Like, I need to serve this bitch with, you know, papers, and I can't. Like, where the fuck is she? Like, I called her stepmom. Like, hey, is she staying there with you? And she's like, no. And I was like, well, if I send the divorce papers to your house, will you give them to her? And she was like, yeah, I can do that. Like, I can do that. That's fine. So I send them there, and I never get them back. And I called her stepmom back up, and I was like, look, I'm gonna have her fucking served. I was like, and I need you to not tell her that. And she's like, no, she wants to get a divorce now, blah, blah, blah. She ends up agreeing, like, to meet me at the constable's office in Temple to get served. So I show up, she shows up, she got served. She didn't say anything to me. It was fine. I chit-chatted with her stepmom a little bit. Her stepmom was cool. So I told her, like, I'm gonna go give this to the courts. I'm gonna file it. I will let you know when there's a date. She goes, well, I'm not coming. I was like, well, you need to fucking be there. Like, you have to sign the divorce papers. Like, you need to be there. And she's like, no, like, I'm not going. And I was like, fuck it. I don't care. I was like, okay. I was like, well, I legally have to tell you when that date is. So I told her stepmom, like, I'll let you know. I finally go into court. And the judge he's pretty chill. He calls me up there and he calls her. Nothing. And he calls her and I was like, she's not here. And he's like, well, where is she? And I was like, I don't know. And he was like, well, when's the last time you talked? And I was like, when I had her served. He was like, well, is she aware of the court date? And I was like, yeah, you'll see in the paperwork that I related to her stepmom who related to her. He was like, so you told her? And I was like, yeah. Well, does she know where she's at? And I was like, I don't know. And he's like, well, is she in Texas? I was like, I don't know. And like, is she alive? And I was like, I fucking hope not. And he started laughing. So I got my divorce. That was great. And the rest is history. So the moral of the story, kids, is if someone ever shoves you, fucking leave them then. Don't give them another chance. Don't get married after 4 months. If, like, you're on your way to get married and for whatever reason you feel like you shouldn't get married, you probably shouldn't get married. When everybody around you is like, hey, bitch, she's crazy, you need to leave, like, you should listen. I'm sure there's more in there. But anyways, that's my story time. Let me know if y'all like this.